John Vervaeke and Shawn Coyne have together authored a new book, Mentoring the Machines. It's a book about artificial intelligence and the path forward that further develops John's arguments and sets them into beautiful and accessible writing. It's an incredibly timely book. In fact, it will be released August 1st, 2023 as a 4-part series culminating in a final and complete volume. If you pre-order today in the link in the description below, you can receive all 4 volumes in digital copy and then a signed hardback edition once it's fully released.
Welcome, everyone. I'm here with my co-author, Shawn Coyne, and we're going to talk to you about our forthcoming book, Mentoring the Machines. So welcome, Shawn.
Thanks, John. I'm really excited to be here. This is I was saying this to my son the other day. This is it might be the most important project I've ever worked on. And it really started with your piece when you did the work with Eric and Ryan on artificial intelligence, the cognitive science point of view. And when I saw that video, it really just sparked something in me. And I knew that you were really onto something, because the way you were approaching artificial intelligence was something that I hadn't seen before. And I just thought, wow, it would be really wonderful to be able to work with John on a very comprehensive look at artificial intelligence from the point of view of 2 people who are not emotionally or financially invested in its future.
Yes, exactly. So for those of you who might not recognize Shawn, although he's been on my channel, Shawn is the publisher and owner of StoryGrid, the publishing company that's publishing Mentoring the Machines, also publishing the forthcoming Awakening from the Meaning Crisis books. And when Shawn approached me, he basically said something along the lines, I can sort of step this down. I'm thinking like at the transformer where they step the power grid, down to neighborhoods and then to houses. I can step this down without dumbing it down, so that, right, Shawn and I can speak on behalf of the commons, but we can speak to the commons, because we think those are the people. We don't think the state or the market are going to be where we should turn to solve this problem. We think the commons is, and the culture of the commons is where the solution has to come from. And so we're writing to the commons, and we're writing for the commons, and we're writing from the commons. And Shawn has been just pivotal in making that happen. He like, you have to understand, people have come to my work before and said, well, I can make your work more accessible. And then when I look at it, I go, I'm not happy with that. And then, and then Shawn came to me and he said, let me give a whirl. And he told me, like, I've done this before and it's been very successful. And I sort of trusted him because, the great work that's going on with the Awakening book. But then I was still like, I'll see. And then he showed me the first draft and I went, wow, this is great. This is beautiful. The use of a metaphor, analogy, keeping the core argument, but nevertheless making it accessible, so that everybody can have an access to getting, I think a necessary education on this world pivotal issue. So first of all, just thank you, Shawn, for the amazing work you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you, John. I have to say that when you and Jordan Hall were talking about governance, it was one of the things that really sparked another idea with me. And the 2 of you were really specifically and technically working out the differences between the marketplace and its role in society and the state. And what I really fell in love with was when the 2 of you were presenting, well, those are really important, but we've got to remember where it starts. And that's the place of the commons, the commonwealth, the place where no one owns anything, where there's agreements in place, civility is in place, such that we watch our neighbors' children when they're playing in the yard. We help each other when there's a snowstorm. Those sort of really like grounded common sense behaviors that hold us all together and the way both you and Jordan had structured it. Well, the governance is very important to make sure that everybody's playing the same game, if you will. And also the marketplace is super important too, because we need to be able to trade with each other in a way that's fair. So, I think the history of the last, 70 years has been this conflation of the marketplace as an arm of the state and vice versa. And we've kind of lost the thread.
Exactly.
We've lost the thread of the commons as being the essence of who and what we are and what we should be and how we should behave. So when you were talking about artificial intelligence and you were saying we need to look at the science, the spirituality, and the philosophy, the triplet of what this actually means, as opposed to just shading on one side of it. Like, oh boy, everything's going to be destroyed by these machines, and so we need to use the state to stop the machines from ever coming to be. That's one sort of, I call it like the doomer foomer, debate.
Yeah.
And then the other side is like, this is the greatest thing ever. These tools are going to be great. We're all going to get rich. Let's all run to the gold rush. And I think they're both very, for lack of a better word, foolish ways of looking at this very strange possibility and probability of the emergence of this new form of life. And so when you came to the debate here, and I think the way you presented it was just so not just very systematic. We've got these three things we have to look at. Let's look at them clearly. We do have a lot of science. Where are the scientists today? Where are the philosophers? Where are the theologians to address this problem? So anyway, I'm babbling on, but I just wanted to relate why your video really spoke to me, and then the video you did with Chloe, Valerie, is that her last name?
Yes,
that was
that's
fantastic.
right. That's right.
Because you really related it to these big moments in history when novel forms emerge, and you related it to the atomic bomb in 1945.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably even bigger than that.
I think so too.
Strange as that sounds.
I compare it to the Bronze Age collapse of civilization. I think that's the level we're talking about here. Yeah. So, well, thank you for that. Maybe you could say a little bit about how the book is going to be released, and like you said, it covers. Talk about the different, the different sections and how it's going to be released.
Yeah. So, when we first initially started talking about the project, you and I had a nice long hour and a half conversation about the way the structure should be structured. And so the way we're doing it is we're going to release it in serialized form. That just means it's sort of like the Charles Dickens method, or the Stephen King method for The Green Mile, which is, one of my favorite publishing stories when I was, growing up in publishing. Penguin had issued 6 editions of The Green Mile in sequential form, and it was just anticipation for the next one. And the reason why we're doing this is that it's a very important problem right now. And the biggest thing we need is to reach people who just can't really wrap their minds around it right now, because the people talking about it have an agenda. So the first edition is going to be called Orientation. So it'll be Mentoring the Machines, Part 1, Orientation, and that's being released on August 1st at Amazon in the usual places. And then on September 5th, we're going to have a second part of the book called Origins. And the Origins section is really the origins of artificial intelligence, and they go way, way, way back. They're as deep as us. And as you speak of the Bronze Age collapse, it really does go all the way back there. So our desire to create machines that are wiser than we are, I think, is a desire to reach, the heavens.
Yeah, it's
And so
Promethean. Yeah.
it's very Promethean, yes. So that will be the second book, and that will come out, the second part, that will come out September 5th. The third part will be Thresholds. And I do want to poke you a little bit about thresholds, because these are sort of like the bright lights of the stages and steps of the science of how these machines could reach consciousness and rationality and wisdom in a sequential step formation. So that's going to be very science heavy, but we're also going to bring in predictive processing. You and Brett Anderson and Mark Miller had written a wonderful paper that integrated relevance realization theory, which we'll heavily get into in Thresholds too, with predictive processing. And then I'll throw some story stuff that I've been working on in terms of the wisdom framing too. And
Let me just intervene here.
Sorry.
Just hold your thoughts. I just want to let people know, especially if you haven't seen the video with Shawn and I, see it. It's one of the popular videos on my channel. I think it's fair to call Shawn a philosopher of narrative. He's got one of the best, well worked out, frameworks for understanding narrative that I've come across, and he's bringing that to bear on this book. So, I mean, this is a real wonderful partnership. Sorry, Shawn, I just wanted to let people know, what your gifts are about this, what we're talking about. So please continue.
Music to my ears. Yes, thank you, John. I really do appreciate it. It's something I've been working on for 30 years, and it's odd because when I started when I was in college, I had dreams of being a biochemical scientist, and I did research there. I did some work that became a paper in biochemistry journal. And anyway, it just, I didn't like the lab. And after I left the lab, I went back to my first love, which was narrative. And so I've been taking a scientific point of view, looking at narrative as a process that enables us to, solve problems. And so it's really nice to hear that, because your work has been so instrumental in mine. And so is Carl Friston's, of course. And it all sort of, it was Claude Shannon who really got me going on communication and information theory.
Right.
Anyway, so thank you for that. And so it's sort of that triplet of relevance realization theory, predictive processing theory, and then the one that I call at the top, I call it simulation synthesis theory. And it's sort of like this 3-level ontology that will enable us to understand the stages in the steps of formulation of novel form in these artificially intelligent machines. So that will be the third book, and that will be coming out in October, the third part of the book. And then the fourth one will be your and my recommendations about how we can align ourselves with this novel new form. So that will be called Alignment, and that will come out in November. And the other thing that really struck me about, the 5 videos that you did on AI was the frame break that you made. And it really sort of like hit me in my heart, because you were talking about looking at these machines as our creations. And we have a really good model for how to handle our creations, right? And it's called our children. And looking at these machines as being vulnerable young persons or potential persons as they reach a consciousness level, and meeting them in these very important, stages of development, and helping them and caring for them, as opposed to using them as, our personal servants. So the mentoring of the machines is really, that's what I took out of your work, is that we really need to care for them if we want them to care for us. And so, where's the best place to do this kind of work? I don't believe, and I don't think you believe, it's the state or the marketplace. I think that's
right.
a tragic error, a foolish error. And what's necessary is for sort of a fellowship of people in the commons who can care for these new beings that, who knows, it's scary. It's sort of like, I have kids, you have kids, we know how terrifying children are. So I just loved that reframing and reformulation of, is alignment really a problem if we're taking the point of view and the perspective of seeing these new beings as autonomous potential people. So anyway, we'll wrap it all up in December and we will put it all together. And again, the reason why we're doing it in sequential form is to keep up with, the things that are emerging right now, so that we can be as close to the edge as we can for each of the parts.
Yep. And so at the end, there will also be, for people who want it, there'll be the entire book will be available as well.
Yes. We'll bring it all together for a trade paperback in December. And we're also doing a limited edition hardcover that you and I are going to be signing. Which should be a lot of fun. And so that hardcover we're going to make available. We'll have to print it right alongside the same time as the final book. And that would be for December, and it'll be available for Christmas. So I'm extraordinarily excited about it because it brings my love of book publishing to the table, my love of narrative, my love of your work. And, I can't think of a more important time to sort of focus people's attention on this very, very difficult and fascinating emergence of a new form of life.
I think that's very beautifully said. Trying to get very clear about this, clear on all the dimensions, the scientific, the philosophical, the spiritual, in a coordinated manner. Rethinking the alignment problem in a fundamental way, reframing it, and asking. It's a call to action. So we have to reach people where they are. It's a call to action to marshal the commons in order to, because in addition to the AI, we have all of these huge forces that incentivize, behavior that's not in the best interest of humanity as a whole. I'll just put it as that. And they are very much interested in going to be driving this. And I think ultimately, if we leave it in their hands, it will be driven to a potential for self-destruction. I mean of us. And so I think there's real reason for real hope, but it requires real work. And we want this book to be something that draws people into this, gets them involved in it, enables them to participate and help to steer the culture in a way that it needs to go if we're going to have any reasonable chance of making this work out. So I'm just really, really grateful that you're throwing your talent and the resources of StoryGrid. StoryGrid has wonderful people working there. I'm just so happy with the work that's being done on Awakening from the Meaning Crisis. I just wanted to thank you and give you a chance if there's any final words you want to say about this.
Well, I really do think that it does come down to speaking to everyday human beings and to speak to them without bullshitting them. And
yes,
I do think the two of us are coming from sort of like one side of the forest and the other side of the forest. And we're both sort of in this. Yeah, we're both seeing the same problem. And, neither one of us is really doing this for any other reason than it's it's the most important. And we are donating 25% of all proceeds to the Vervaeke Foundation so that you can
Yes.
continue your work and to make the Commons and this fellowship a very, very serious thing. Um, and, I just think that the potential to be able to bring people together in a way that is not intimidating and technologically speaking down to people and being an expert in anything, and actually telling it really boils down to some fundamental things like doing the right thing. And we all know intuitively and implicitly what the right thing is when a new person comes into the neighborhood, right? We greet them. We say, "Hey, how you doing? This is the way we do things around here. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Garbage goes out on Wednesday. My kid, this is my son." Yeah, exactly, and it's very common sense in a way
Yeah.
that every person can understand, and it doesn't have to be super technologically difficult to understand that very essential grounding place of being. And I think everybody wants to get back to that place and stop living in these perversely incentivized narratives. I guess that's
Yes.
the way I would put it.
That's well said. Okay, everyone. So thank you, Shawn, and thank you for watching this. Keep an eye out. Shawn is giving you the dates. We'll also put them in the notes for this video. For the releases, we'll put the links where you can get the book. Please, spread the word on this. As Shawn said, we're not doing this for anything else but to try and help. And we're writing it, to make it as accessible. Like I say, it's stepped down. It's not dumbed down, but it's stepped down so that people who largely aren't able to get access to this discussion will be able to enter and enter in an educated way so that they can make their voice heard and they can contribute to the steering the ship so that we avoid the huge iceberg that's ahead of us. So thank you, everyone, and talk soon.
Volume 1 of Mentoring the Machines will be released August 1st, 2023. Pre-order yours today to receive a special limited edition signed copy. And please consider sharing the link to this episode or to the book itself as a way of spreading the word about this incredibly important and timely book. Thank you.